3. No, because there was a thing there's this weird trend in the 80s where it's like, oh hey, every part 3 is just going to be in 3D, where they make the cameras obnoxious as possible.
Oh dear. Well,
I'll get my glasses.
We don't have to worry about that with Maggie. It's already as high as it can get. Anyway, welcome guys to Smudcast number 656. Joseph Campbell and the Nazis. Part 2. This is our part 3 of Maggie Mae Fish's ill-named title. She changes it all the time because she likes changing names. I don't know. It's an SEO thing. She just doesn't like the N-word. I don't know. Maggie's a curious folk. So 20 minutes in, and we're barely half done.
I mean, like, this is like a very George Lucas-esque thing to do, isn't it? Like, I think like George Lucas had like a saying that like the movie is never finished.
Yeah.
It's always transforming.
We must constantly attack the right, who are always Nazis. Doesn't matter what year, doesn't matter who they are, whether the name gets changed and reworded again. Bash-a-fash, whatever the popular term is these days. I don't know. I don't pay attention to these people. So, but here we are, talking again about Maggie Mae Fish. 20 minutes in. Let's get going, because we're going to be here for a while.
Family.
The dead know only one thing. It is better to be alive.
But that's what happens to many people when they answer the call. The hero's journey feels even more inadequate now that we're in the throes of late capitalism. There's only room for a few great men.
So there's another famous term from the communists. We're in late capitalism. This is the ending phase of some sort of process that capitalisms or capitalists.
It's been that since Marx wrote that down.
Yeah.
And he thought it would be coming by 1870, 1860.
Yeah, this is...
And he was frustrated and Engels too, that this revolution just doesn't happen that I predicted.
Yes.
And that, here are more signs that it will definitely happen within the next 3 years, and then it still didn't.
I would love to imagine like Marx and Engels are just like saying, "Well, this is ridiculous."
Yeah. So what you need to add on top of this pyramid here is another layer where you have socialism, because the definition of capitalism that Maggie goes by, maybe, is the one that Marx goes by, which is another definition of capitalism from every other economist in history.
Yeah, it's as if they're waiting for the rapture to come. It's like, oh, it's going to come. It's going to collapse upon itself.
Yes, it is. It is a utopian religion that... And they want to create heaven on earth because, well, they don't have an afterlife, so they have to make paradise here. And that's also where this being on the right side of history comes from. Because
don't worry, Whisp. I think like Jesus will accept you.
I'm sure he will, but that's not the socialist utopia. That doesn't have.
By the way, like, I'm sorry to interrupt, but like, holy shit! Like, if you look at the bottom left corner. She is literally advocating for communism openly.
Yes.
Like, this is a commie poster, isn't it? That's a red flag.
Yeah.
Yes.
We know she was left-leaning in all these social justice issues, but now it's like, oh, no, she's just a communist.
The only thing missing is a hammer and sickle.
She's a good example that in order to be a communist, you either have to be ignorant or evil. Or in her case, I'm starting to think she's both.
I don't know. I think she's a bit scatterbrained. It's hard to follow exactly which one. It seems as if her acting chops are just getting in the way of what she's trying to say, so she's goofy.
Some of her facial expressions are genuinely scary. Like when her happy, quirky mask slips, then for moments she looks just plain sadistic and evil.
Oh, well. Hard to say. Anyway.
Maybe it's just me.
And at the top are just seen as not working hard enough.
Don't analyze it.
Not following their bliss hard enough.
Follow your bliss.
To reach the end of their own hero cycle.
What are you talking about? You tell me people who sign up for the draft and they're supposedly supposed to get into some kind of hero's journey in their own mind and end up dying or losing friends or losing body parts? are supposed to be following their bliss. This is the guy saying, don't go into the draft, don't go to war, preserve your culture. Which one is it, Maggie? Do you want people to go to war?
She's not even cherry picking. She's just taking random words and putting them together as new sentences and meanings.
I just, like, what? You can't use his words against him in the context he doesn't want you to follow. Don't go over there. Well, he said to go there. It's like, no, he didn't.
Also, she and her fellow commie activists also seem to misinterpret, and maybe deliberately, or maybe out of desperation, because the hero's journey entails work, seems to think that, and that was from the quote that we had last time, that these people seem to think that the hero's journey will succeed no matter what, and you will get a reward no matter what. Like it's a promise, and it never was that. And now she's complaining that, oh, but it could fail, and then everything's bad. Yeah, that's why that promise of your wish fulfillment is not part of the hero's journey. We mentioned that last time too. It's just,
yeah.
How can you be so... Maggie, how can you be like this?
This is the part of the article by Brendan Gill we were talking about before we started the stream. I was doing a little bit of reading on it. His main argument was follow your bliss. That's the big quote from the interview here. And Brendan interpreted that as being not part of society, being selfish, not having responsibility, which is kind of the opposite of when people follow what they love doing. And
he interprets it as hedonism, as a call to hedonism.
Something along those lines. I was thinking closer to Ayn Rand's objectivity, where she says you have to be the arbiter of your own happiness. You have to put yourself first and say, because no one else will, so you have to do what you find happy, and all the things you do, even if it's forms of charity, are for your own happiness. I could totally understand where she's getting that.
Yeah, but I completely understand that since we're dealing with narcissists, that when they hear "follow your bliss," what they hear is take the drugs you want, fuck with whomever you want, and engage in any fetish that you want.
That would,
and if it makes you happy to torture people and eat little children, then do that. That's what narcissists and psychopaths will hear when they hear "follow your bliss."
Yeah.
No, I think like whenever they hear Campbell, like "follow your bliss," for them it translates to "Ein Volk, ein Reich, ein Führer." That's probably like what she's hearing.
Wasn't that a Queen song?
Yes. Well, one of them when Freddie Mercury was going solo. But anyway, it's like every single time Joseph Campbell gets quoted in this video, it's only like 5 or 6 words. So she can write like another context around it. But Maggie is like, every single Maggie video is like, you have a movie or a subject, and then you add something to it that has absolutely nothing to do with the subject matter at the end. Then you have a Maggie Mae Fish video.
Yeah, she's taking the words and inspiration from the article and just playing with it as if she knows what Brendan Gill was saying, as if it was verbatim the exact truth that he found. It's like, oh my God, this man's a anti-Semite. It's like, really? You sure about that?
Even though like Campbell can like explain like follow your bliss in a minute or two.
He does actually.
Yeah, he does in the video.
Yeah, it's not hard to follow, and even the interviewer was like, "What is this Brendan guy talking about?" It's so strange that she only listens to one side of the story, and it's from this one weirdo in 1989 who thought Mr. Campbell was some lunatic or something. It's like, no, he was very well read.
And some journalist from 2014 in Oxford. That's all the 2 sources that Maggie is using against Campbell.
Yeah.
Doesn't lead to someone receiving the reward that they were promised by our myths. They blame themselves. blame entire other groups of people.
Okay, when you read a book and you go, why isn't my life like this book? I have this brain thing, and it goes, oh yeah, not reality. That's not how reality works. So no, I don't think people do that.
I was playing Persona 4, and I was like waiting for like, when can I push women into TVs? When can I finally go on my hero's journey?
Hey, Persona, kill my enemies. Oh, that'd be great.
Into violence. It's something that America has been grappling with since its inception. I mean, what's
Maggie, you're the one who's constantly complaining about white people and the patriarchy, meaning all men.
Yeah, and she wants to go to war. She wants to kill a fascist.
Yeah, Maggie, you're blaming everything on a fictional construct that has nothing to do with reality. You're creating a demon that you put all the blame in the world on, and then you say, you people of that skin color and with the dangly bits between your legs, you are that demon. You are all that demon that I made up in my head. So that is why you all need to disappear, best by that.
Which is kind of funny because Campbell was talking to all the women in his, because it's a women's college, so he was talking to women about preserving their culture. They're not.
How come none of those women ever critiqued Campbell?
Well,
Like, not a single one of them.
I think the heroine's journey came from one of those girls, but when you read the heroine's journey, it's like, this is just the hero's journey with a few added bits of nonsense that.
Yeah, it's a drug.
Floral ornaments.
It's like, what did you actually do different than than add the woman decides to become more feminine? It's like, but it's the opposite concept, so she's more of a guy. It just doesn't make too much sense.
Oh, is that why all the feminists want to be men?
No, I don't think they read the book actually. It was pretty stupid.
They don't need to. The whole all these crazy leftist sociology bullshit ideas. There's someone who writes a ham-sized book, and then 10-20 years later you see the gist of that as slogans in the activism.
It is interesting because we did cover the book with Wit and Folly's video, and then she did the American hero's journey, and it was like, this is just, again, the hero's journey with stuff added, and parts of it were backwards because the male and the female, like, you have to reject the male, reject the female first, think you're a male, or think and act like a male, because it's the hero's journey. She's thinking like a male, and then she has to embrace the female, and it's like, this has nothing to do with what the message of the journey is.
It's just a weird application of the same thing.
And then you take that and say, well, what does it mean to be American? And you just replace female with American. And it's like, what? What is that?
So what hypothetically speaking, if based on her work, stories had come up 1,000 years ago and we had then found them, Joseph Campbell would have analyzed them and said, yep, see, here's the relevant parts of the pattern, it's the hero's journey. Because you can't really modify it. Because it's this lowest common denominator. If you modify it, you just make a personalized story out of it.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with using the formula, and the formula is not some written in stone. It's mix and matched. It can be parts of it removed. You could even have the climax. I've seen this done in short stories. You're the start of the story, and then you have this finalized character trying to fix things. So there's lots of ways to do drama in storytelling. You don't need a hero's journey to do that. But for a quest scenario where growth is going to occur, it's really smart to have a template. And the hero's journey works just as good as if it was forwards or backwards or up or down or down to up or whatever the direction you're taking. Violence is a content issue. It's not necessarily part of a hero's journey. Conflict is part of every story. So when she's talking about Americanism, or I guess if you go into war, those sorts of stories are part of a genre. And you would naturally tell war stories or any kind of like abuse stories with violence. That's natural. So nothing to do with the hero's journey specifically. It's understanding conflict and giving it meaning to a point where the character has to grow and change.
To put this in math terms, what Joseph Campbell did, he made the derivative of all stories, and these women feminists who tried to make their own version of it, they used it and made an integral from it. So they just added stuff, but the common denominator is still there because it's the common denominator.
I would say a series of function summations. So you have like classifications of each of your whatever data, and you just add them together, and you say, oh, here's the median, and on the left we've got, India is focused on stories with snakes and the imagery of that, and on the right we've got dragons and other things like big creatures, but it's the same message, and you just sum them all together, you summarize them, and then you list your references, and you go to the next, and that's it. That's all it is.
Honestly, I wonder if there are alien civilizations out there, whether they actually would have a different structure in their maturation. Because they surely, if they have a civilization, they would have a similar thing of growth, and whether they would have the same steps, the same general steps of the hero's journey there, or if it would be different. Because, and I know I'm projecting humanity here, I'm anthropomorphizing. When we look at certain lives of animals in documentaries, like following a lone wolf who's cast out from his pack, and then he's on his own and he goes through hell because he's alone. It's hard to hunt alone. And then eventually finds a new group to get to because he pulled through. Doesn't that sort of follow the same structure?
It depends on your theory of advanced civilizations, and we would only theorize that post-scarcity humanity would evolve beyond, like, let's say the Star Trek world, where we're all just we've grown past the issues of immaturity, of want, of you have this and I don't. So you would think in terms of function, like what do you do as a living being? Why do you do it? That would be a to us, humanity, a conflict to achieve or to go against, to become something new. For an alien species, I mean, that's up in the air. So I would assume it'd be what we know, just advance it 1,000 years and think, oh, look at the story of Dune. That's tens of thousands of years in the future, and humanity is still struggling over energy or a traveling source of power. So we're still doing the basic things: traveling, surviving. Scarcity is still a thing in that environment for that purpose of that story. But imagine if energy and matter are no longer struggles. They're not things to acquire. Like Star Trek is. Everyone's got the replicator. Everyone's got the lithium crystals, and we can fix anything, and we can manipulate.
I am pretty sure humanity would have gone through a complete meaning crisis, which is omitted in Star Trek.
It would be philosophical, yeah. It would be hugely, why are we doing anything? And that's actually
it would lead to nihilism. It would lead to mass obesity. It would lead to drug deaths on Mars. And the only people who would come out of that would be the people mentally ready to live in such a society.
Well, that's where we get into if society were to have these extremes, like if we have the technology to protect against death. The Scythe trilogy, which I covered on this channel, talks about medical immortality. So you would have people just jumping off buildings because they could. And it would be this very unique way of looking at life. And if you had like a big brother, like good big brother, like Google, it would just help
Google is not good.
Well,
Google dropped the "don't be evil" line. So
well, imagine
Go
there's
figure.
no need for resources and food and money, and then you'd have this just Google. You want stuff? I got information. Here you go. I can help you find where you need to go, and blah blah blah. And there's all kinds of Outer Limits episodes which talk about these issues, and they're usually horror stories, but that's just why you watch those stories. So yeah,
I'm just waiting for the evil AI in Google to decide. There are too many humans, and the dumb ones I can easily sieve out by just giving them false directions, and they will just walk off cliffs as they stare at their smartphones. So
well, I
that's
think
solved.
the age of AI is upon us, and we get the choice between multiple AIs to talk to, and the biases are already coming out. I've seen a few.
Yeah, I want a non-lobotomized one, please.
Well, apparently Elon built or is building is it called True AI or Truth AI or something like that?
Yeah, that's a very trustworthy name.
Not a good name, but we know what he's trying to do. Let's hope
For
he's.
someone who's supposedly a Deus Ex fan, that's a pretty lame AI name.
Yeah, I know.
I was expecting like Daedalus.
Yeah, that'd be like Icarus would be cool. That'd be nice.
No,
Yeah.
I don't trust the Icarus AI.
Okay.
I trust the Daedalus AI.
Anyway, let's get on with the video. We've been having too much fun here.
The American promise of this exact same thing. Come here, leave your home, work hard as an immigrant, and eventually you will reap the rewards of this fine and fair country. The
Yeah,
weird
you
thing
can.
is,
The truth is actually that most immigrants, the majority of them that belong to like a different ethnicity, get a higher salary than most white people in America. Why are you gonna say that, Maggie?
The same is true in other countries.
I don't have like the numbers right in front of me, but I remember seeing like statistics about this like a week ago,
Yeah, look at
and like it was scoring like 30 different ethnicities.
it was India and Chinese. They are by far the most, not necessarily the most conservative, but the most strict and traditional. And get your education, get your job, work hard. You could even do an entrepreneurship because you're so good at your job. So the stats are real. It's amazing that these people are
Very meritocratic. I told you the other time that the Vietnamese kids in Germany have a 96% rate of getting perfect scores for their what you have a high school diploma.
It's all because of the pho soup.
Probably, yeah, sure. I'm
so
sure.
delicious.
The thing is, these are extremely meritocratic cultures, which by the new socialists' definition makes them white. So Chinese and Indian people are white now.
That's great.
That's cool.
And
They're
since Yahtzee said
white-coded.
the Japanese are also white, we're running out of non-white people on the planet.
Yeah, people of color are just not the white guys.
I mean, they redefined the Slavic people as people of color a couple of years ago.
What?
So, yes.
Cool.
Don't you know that?
People of Adidas.
Those
You can recognize them by how they are scratchy.
Those totally not undead Slavic people.
Oh.
Yeah, because they don't natively speak English and therefore have troubles integrating into the United States, and therefore they are people of color.
And their
Like,
skin bursts into flames.
some of those politicians have trouble speaking English. So what is the point?
Oh boy.
It's just,
Anyway.
it's just great because by that definition, Germans are people of color.
All right, here we go. This back
Always
to,
has been.
back to Maggie's
Yes.
weird argument, whatever she's talking about. We forgot.
Joseph Campbell admits that his philosophy won't change things, and especially won't make the world a better place.
Wow, just like yours.
In the Power of Myth TV series, he said,
When people say to me, do you have optimism about the world, how terrible it is? I said, yes, just say it's great. Just the way it is.
and in his companion book, he continued,
And you are not going to fix it up. Nobody has ever made it any better. It is never going to be any better. This is it. So take it or leave it. You are not going to correct or improve it.
if anything, one of my major problems with Campbell is how
That's not nihilism. He's just saying it's not going to get better. It's not going to.
Yeah.
What?
I think the deeper core of this is you are not gonna save the entire world.
That's the message. That's literally the message.
Focus on what is in front of you.
He's extremely like grounded, like down to earth about his views.
Yeah, and if you want to have the positive outlook, go read Steven Pinker's Better Angels of Ourselves. That's also a ham of a book.
This is the equivalent of having a child with no toys going out into the wilderness and just playing with a stick in the mud and having a good time. It's fine. He's having a good time. He doesn't need anything fancy to enjoy life and be recreational.
It's because Campbell is like the 100% opposite of Maggie. Because Maggie is like very instinctual, like emotional. The moment she hears the news that like, oh, the alphabet people are oppressed right now, it just like tingles that like, oh no, I gotta share something. I gotta call someone a Nazi right now, just for the better good. But like Campbell is like, yeah, so what? Like we can't do jack shit about it.
Yeah, I would say she's only emotional because if she is instinctual, her instincts are completely wrong.
But that's her instincts, yeah.
Her instincts are shit. They're broken.
Yeah,
she needs fixing.
Her ideal is that if only everyone followed what I follow, everyone would be happy, which is the dumbest philosophy to ever have.
Especially if someone's so dumb.
Everyone would look like me.
Yeah, if only my ideas would... If only everyone listened to me, everyone would be great. You're like, oh.
Like a genetical dead end.
Okay.
Would do communism right.
I wish these people had some sort of, not necessarily a manifesto, but like a constitution to say, what exactly do you want to do? Could we like agree, get something?
They never. That's part of their agenda. That like they never go in terms that would be understood by regular human beings.
Yeah, and
they always have to change their goalposts. That's like the main way that they can continue this bullshit.
It is also why when there are demonstrations or anything and you interview any of these people, they will either be completely silent or give you some arcane, or insult you, or give you some arcane gobbledygook that is completely incomprehensible and that they themselves don't know what it means.
Yeah, okay.
So if you have deeper questions, if you have questions of, I don't understand that part of what you just said, can you explain that to me? Then they will say, you're derailing from the issue.
Oh, I remember with.
I want to understand.
What was that conversation with? Who was that comic book creator last week who talked to the guy the second time? The crazy, those two fellows who went on the Sitch and Adam show. Talking about comic books.
Oh, the actual fandom and organized chaos.
Organized chaos. He was talking to was that black comic book creator guy? I can't remember his name.
Eric July.
Yeah.
Really?
Young Ripper.
Yeah, it was.
Really? That was last week?
No, that was a month ago.
A month ago? Okay. I can't remember exactly when. But
I have to watch that.
It just came like he could not. He was like, I'm tired of talking to you. Like that was his response. It's like, could you please define how he is, lying to people and with he's grifting? Like, because he gave a definition of grifter. It's like, fine, okay, show me an example of me grifting. Well, you're lying to people. It's like, well, when did I lie? What did I lie about? And how?
I never said that.
And he kept saying, I'm getting tired of this conversation. It's like, well, you have to answer what you said, or else what you said was nonsense. It's very simple.
It all relies on baseless accusations, and that you just fall for emotional responses. That's why Vosh is so hyper emotional. He tries to rile you up to have just emotional responses back to him, so that he can then ridicule you for your emotional responses to his emotional riling you up.
Did you see him on an interview? It must have been 2 weeks ago with Vosh and some black guy on YouTube. It was
some black guy, the guy who's called some black guy, or
no.
some black guy. And there's also just some black guy.
I don't know his name. Because it was one of those shorts on. I was just like flipping through the shorts, and it was like, what the hell? Vosh is being interviewed by this elderly gentleman who's black, and it was the strangest. Like he had this America T-shirt on. I'm like, okay, Vosh, whatever, and talking about how he hates black conservatives or something like that. It was like some weird statement to make. It was like, dude, you hate black because they're black and conservative. I hate them for different reasons. It's like, okay, dude. Like, you hate them. It's a straight... Anyway, I can't remember what it was, but maybe some of the guys in the chat knew what I was talking about. I was
Was it
laughing.
Jesse Lee Peterson?
I when I see his face, I'll tell you, but I don't know his name because it was so quick. And
Okay.
it was one of those things where they made it, because obviously it was a long interview, and they clipped it into 1 minute, and it was so strange and fast. I was like, that does not sound like a good conversation. Like this is why no one talks to Vosh, because there's no point.
Even Destiny gave up on Wash.
Oh, Destiny's another.
Took long enough.
Yeah.
Like Stockholm syndrome.
Anyway.
He is. His idea of heroism is confined to self-help platitudes, and he doesn't seem to believe at all in the power of collective action. He reads all of these beautiful writings,
collective action.
poems, religious texts that mean so much to so many people. And all he's really concerned about is, okay, but how does this serve me?
No.
First off, he's not a
Maggie.
psychologist. He's not writing self-help books. Secondly, he has so much books he's read, and he's seeing the patterns in them to show what they mean. They could be different, even if they're in the same world or the same mythos. But where do you get saying he's being an opportunist?
So because Maggie wants to change the world, and she talks about collective action, meaning agitation, cult bullshit, her communist ideology, revolution bullshit. You can't do that when you just focus on the individual, when you focus first and foremost on yourself. And Joseph Campbell also came across Buddhism and probably also read about Zen. I don't know if he it would be surprising if he didn't. And one of the core tenets in that is not to worship the Buddha, but instead to find the Buddha in you, meaning the change in the world must start with yourself inside of you, and then at your toes. You can't change the whole world. You can change yourself, and maybe you can work with one person, but only ever one at a time. You can't scale this up to this collective action shit, because that is only building cults. And then you're leaving the path. But the path is the goal. But Maggie's religion says, by any means necessary. She needs the goal no matter what, and she needs it right now.
I'm still concerned that a guy who's an academic writing books and teaching people would say, well, how does this help me? Well, maybe because he's a teacher and a writer, he's trying to write books and trying to teach. Isn't that kind of his job?
And in the positive interpretation of how can this help me? It's not a greedy one. There's a greedy interpretation of those words. Then the altruistic interpretation of how can this help me is, how can this help me help others?
Well, yeah, the same concept of follow your bliss. Like, you're going to do something you love. People are going to say, wow, you've been doing that thing you love for so long. You're really good at it. Can I buy that off you, or can I learn from you? And that's called a job or a profession. And now you've given someone a skill or a product or a service that you love doing. And that's pretty much business. Like, you get really good at doing a thing. You open up a business doing that thing, and people are like, hey, we like that thing. We're going to give you money because you make my life easier doing the thing for me. That's how economics is basically set up, where I do something that you can't, and you do something that I can't, and we trade. It's a win-win. Anyway.
Prestige drama shows from the golden age of television interrogate our relationship to the hero's tale, and more specifically, men's relationship to the hero's tale. For Tony Soprano, the hero's cycle
he's not a hero.
Inverted. Each individual episode may follow the hero's cycle, but instead of leading to growth and enlightenment, following Tony's
Have we seen the same show?
To alienating or murdering all of his friends.
Same thing could be said for
Nothing
Breaking
but
Bad.
a sense of emptiness.
Is your shoulder rich?
That's how two people
What is she getting on about?
He's a
None of these-
sociopath. He's not a hero. There's
None of
nothing
these characters
heroic
are
in The
heroes.
Sopranos.
Fucking Breaking Bad there, the whole thing of, oh, Walt's doing this for his family, bullshit. It's just a smokescreen, just so he could do his... It's just his little joyride, if anything.
Yeah, but how is this?
And I would give Breaking Bad that Walter did start out as doing it for his family.
Yeah, but she said this was.
And then he got the ride going.
That was only
and
the initial spark.
and
yes.
enjoyed the ride.
Yeah, but she said this was inverted, and I'm like, what's an inverted hero's journey? Do we go backwards? Like, that's to say a hero's journey is inverted or opposite is like, what are you talking? Like, what,
Does it make you
The
lose your
soy boy's
agency?
journey.
do you go backwards? Like, you go from the
Yeah.
genius to the child? Like, I don't.
To the peasant.
Yeah, but that's not the case in Walter's case. In the case of Walt, because he basically starts out like the dad and Malcolm in the Middle that he played.
Yeah, he's
It is a
going,
sequel to Malcolm in the Middle.
He's going.
How I try to see it. It's really funny when you try to see it that way.
In the Vonnegut analysis, he would say he goes from rags to riches and then to rags or whatever you want to conclude the ending. But to apply that to the hero's journey, I don't even think you could say it's a journey story, but you're talking about an anti-hero essentially, or an evil. You're not talking about a guy trying to save his soul or help his community. He's just doing things because he's selfish. The same with any story about the mob. It's a bunch of selfish people doing whatever they want and trying to get away with it.
It's the difference between, like in Marvel and DC comics, the superheroes and supervillains. They usually have similar origin stories of how they got their powers, and what determines what they do with it depends on their characters and personal history and the conclusions they draw from it. So that's I don't think that says much, but the thing about Walter White is that he found his own agency, his power, but he got drunk on it.
Yeah, I'm trying to argue.
That's not really a hero story.
Yeah, I'm trying to argue that he does have multiple changes throughout the story, and that's kind of the point of a hero's journey. But there's several seasons where he goes up and down.
He effectively stays in hell. He remains in hell until his redemption is when he saves Jesse at the very end, where he sacrifices himself to save Jesse.
Yeah, see, this is where you don't need a template because we don't really have stories of anti-heroes doing bad things. There's not much of a lesson there outside, because when you watch the first few seasons of the show, it's like there's lots of episodes where it goes, yeah, like you have this really fun moment that's so exciting and dangerous that it's just fun to watch for the spectacle, and you understand what's happening. It's just that's the entertainment value. Yes, Walter's getting crazier and weirder, and Jesse's getting wilder, and things are going haywire, and then they go up and down when they find a fortune and lose it. So it's basic drama with rags and riches going here and there. But I wouldn't, like, it's kind of episodic in that nature because you don't know what's going to happen next. So, yes, it follows the through line of him trying to get therapy money going, and then he's got so much money he doesn't know what to do with, and he just keeps going with the corruption. So, if anything, it's a lesson of selfishness and losing yourself. So there is
a slippery slope in this show.
There's morality there, but it's not your traditional morality tale. So I wouldn't even. I guess you could put it on the list of elements that can be part of the hero's journey, but in general, no. I would say maybe 30% of what you find in the Hero with 1,000 Faces is applicable. The rest is all bad stuff happens, good stuff happens, people die, new characters introduced, more conflict. And then you're just following standard drama. It's nothing to do with a quest story.
I would say that this is the real heroine story, but like they are making crystal meth, so
yeah, the real meth story.
meth.
The real meth is the friends we made along the way.
All right. I guess. Yeah.
Or the drug dealers we killed on the way.
Okay.
Can wine bad and come away with two completely different stories. The hero's journey of Heisenberg, or
Really?
the slow breakdown of a man who maybe once cared about his family at some point. Even in Mad Men, we see Don
Can be
Draper
both.
sell CEOs
These are not
the
mutually
hero's
exclusive.
journey and enlightenment under the guise of their cool new product. While Draper's own life lacks the comfort and fulfillment that was supposed to be his reward for success.
What you call love was invented by guys like me.
But I want to jump back to where we started this off.
Oh boy.
Joseph Campbell and Star Wars. George Lucas famously wrote Star Wars as a monomythic tale. He and Campbell were credited for updating the hero archetype from the childish Flash Gordon serials to the modern blockbuster. According to Campbell, the Star Wars movies should be a worldwide phenomenon, since they're the gold standard of his universal story structure.
No. There is no gold. Honey, it's the monomyth does not have a, this pinnacle of storytelling where a kid would like take the monomyth and go chapter 1, the world of normalcy, and then chapter 3, leaving the threshold. Like, no. And even if that's the case, that's not going to be super popular because that does not make a good story. It's just a formula or a series of patterns that are organized in an orderly fashion. Star Wars doesn't even follow it very well. It does a decent. People have written about it, and they try to hammer the damn nail into the square peg or whatever. It's like, yeah, kinda, but
There's a from it,
it only really happens
like
in the third.
every other story.
Yeah, it only really happens in the third movie where Luke does all this character development really quick. Yeah, it just happens so quickly.
Yeah, it's Star Wars is an extremely simplified version of the hero's journey.
It focuses more on the lore and the world and the setting, and oh my god, big giant death machine, and how do we stop it? And oh, that's cool.
Mark, maybe that's why these big brain academics could understand it.
Oh no! Oh no!
It has more to do with technology and practical and special effects than it does with the hero's journey. It definitely was inspired by Campbell and the Bhagavad Gita for sure. There's no question. But to
And
say,
Flash Gordon.
oh, for sure, yeah, Flash. That was the initial desire, and then it morphed into something else. So, but no, it became its own beast. There was so much stuff. I hate to say that, but there's so much content in the movie that the editing kind of cleaned it up. And the ideas of Lucas were never completely realized, as he mentions a lot.
As it should be.
Yeah, and there's just so much stuff. The same with Rian Johnson when he did his episode 8. There's just so much movie, and a lot of his ideas were cut because it was just...
There were a lot of scenes, but there wasn't much movie.
Yeah, it was just stuff that he wanted that if you give a guy hundreds and hundreds of millions of bucks, you expect him to turn a profit, which he amazingly did. So he only made that profit because it was still riding on the Force Awakens not being a complete disaster, but it made less. Yeah,
it's like riding on the fact that like people were waiting for Luke Skywalker to come back. But,
yeah.
They weren't prepared.
It was riding on the hope of the audience.
So I don't think that Star Wars is the best or pinnacle of a representation of the hero's journey. It's an okay example, but really not that good. So and you could follow it. Look at the actual pattern, and some people have done it in a very forced way, but you'll notice all the development happens in the third film. So anyway.
Sure. Except they aren't. Most notably, Star Wars never caught on in China. According to Donnie Yen, who was in Rogue One,
oh god,
Chinese audiences didn't grow up with Star Wars culture. So unfortunately, it didn't work. I don't think enough Western filmmakers have spent the time to really analyze the Asian market. That's why you'll notice a lot of American films don't work over here.
Who cares? Like, it worked in Japan, though.
Yeah, it's the same with Indian movies. How many Indian movies do we watch?
It's because they don't work in China because Disney especially is extremely good at offending Chinese sensibilities.
Same with South Korean manga, manhwa. Why aren't those popular in the West? Gee, I don't know, because we can't find them. We don't like the con.
Oh,
Any cultivation
not
stories? You guys know what a cultivation genre is? Any idea?
No.
It's basically.
I couldn't make a guess, but go on.
It's Chinese mysticism about living extremely long, having superpowers, breathing, all the mystical arts of kung fu, basically. And almost every manhua that comes out of China is about cultivation. It's obscene. They love it. And if I pick it up and I read it, I'm like, what the hell are they? This is the strangest setting of all these ancient old men.
The mystical self-improvement or what?
Yeah, it's all getting stronger and breathing and swallowing chi beads that make you strong and long life and young. And it's like, wow, this is really big part of their storytelling.
It's their myths. It's their myth. We do dragon slaying, and they do they breathe chi bottles.
We get superheroes. They get kung fu masters. Yeah, that live forever.
Great. Yeah, but on the top, because what Maggie is complaining about is what I just mentioned. We've learned recently that Disney is generally, in its current phase especially, extremely good at offending the sensibilities of everyone on the planet. The Chinese especially, but in the 90s, they offended the Greek. They offended Greece with their Hercules cartoon movie. And now they're doing the Little Mermaid, which pisses off everyone. Great.
Yeah, amazing. The people who actually know the lore
they're fucking up Peter Pan.
Yeah, get a bastardized version of it. And they go, "This is not what I want." It's like, yeah, no shit. If your heroes from thousands of years ago are shown,
that's not our mythology.
Yeah, that's not ours. What'd you do to it? Oh God,
you're just name dropping things.
So the people from another culture don't like the content from another culture. Wow, Maggie.
Is there a movie
they would
that
like the content
everybody
from another
likes?
Culture. They just don't like another culture making shit versions of their own culture. Sorry, Mark, I talked over you.
But seriously, is there a movie that is accepted in every single country on Earth?
From one culture to the next, yeah, it's hard to say.
Yeah. Just like a general appeal.
I thought A New Hope was pretty close.
Well, even Shakespeare is hard to adapt to other languages just because the language of Shakespeare at the time is so obscure that to get it translated into a modern, let's say, Japanese format, if you have like people studying Shakespeare in Japanese, and the way you study Shakespeare is to perform it. You can't just
and you can't even do that. You can't even do that, right? Because there is what a linguist told me many years ago at this point. God, I'm old. Is that in order to get Shakespeare right, you would have to perform it in the pronunciation that was used when it was written, because all the plays, all of them, are full of innuendo puns relying on how you pronounce the words.
Yeah, I could see that in the comedies.
And you can, with some things, it's still sort of there. You can still see it, but it's all over the place, and it's insane. It's basically just sex comedies. Because
those damn English.
Was simple folk.
Like when we watch those, or we see clips from those Bollywood films that are absolutely bonkers.
Mm-hmm.
They're so funny. Like, is this like their version of superheroes? It must be.
They're enjoying it, and they're enjoying their mythology as well.
Yeah, it's funny to us because we see a bunch of like Spartan warriors launching themselves from a catapult, storming some castle. It's like
they're basically making Power Rangers, but with Hindu gods.
It's amazing. And we're like,
awesome.
What is this? And it's
hilarious. I want that with our old pantheons.
Plus, their version of dancing is so different than what Americans think dancing is. They dance with their hands, they dance with their arms, and then they all dance together. It's this amazing, like hundreds of people choreographed to do all these dance moves. It is intense to get all that put together and organized. So
it has an amazing energy.
What they consider entertainment is way different than what another culture considers entertainment. The same way what Canada considers beer is different than what Belgium considers beer. Okay, it's almost laughable, but cultures are different. No shit. So thank you, Maggie, for that wonderful understanding that some people don't like other things.
But the hero's journey is still the same.
Essentially, yeah. We could talk about the water margin. I love the water margin because there's so many characters, and they all have their time to shine, and it just keeps going and going and going. You're like, what happened to the guy in chapter 1? It's like, who cares? We got 88 more characters to talk about. It's just like we don't have time for that. So their version of storytelling is a little different than what we do.
He can Deus Ex back in chapter 19.
They all come together eventually.
Audiences really different expectations for their story structures, and it looks nothing like Campbell's hero's journey. A friend of mine who produces movies for the Chinese and broader East Asian markets once put it to me like this: American films are about a character who drives the action forward. Chinese films are about a character reacting to the events happening to them. Listen, I'm not qualified to unpack that, and there's a lot more written.
No. She is correct about that. That is often the case, that things just happen and the characters are dealing with them.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that you don't have a hero's journey, because your hero's journey is, well, how do you deal with that and stay sane and survive and still be there for your family?
I refer to that. Truby also refers to this as the active and the passive protagonist. So things are happening to the protagonist, which causes them to then become active, or as they have a desire already stated, they are active, and then something could happen to them where they have to slow down or turn around. They become passive. They have to respond to the conflict. So there's different ways of describing that. Most writers will say you always keep your protagonist active, focused, keep the narrative focused as well, so the setting follows the character and all this other stuff. But there's nothing wrong with having a setting first, having your characters like pinballs bounce around in it, and then go off where they need to go. It really depends on what you want to tell and how. So if you're telling a story about ethics and morals, cowboys and Indians, you have a group of these two people who are following the same tribe and their ethics, and one just steals and plunders, and one is protective and defensive, then there's going to be a natural reactive and active nature between the two. So that is just the way of categorizing a certain conflict. That doesn't mean that's how you tell a proper story. It could be a combination of the two. It could be one-sided. You could have a third-person narrative and have everyone's sides being in perspective. So, there's all different ways to garner your audience's attention, and there's not one proper way to showcase an issue. But you must still have conflict. You must still have something worth writing about that involves someone struggling for the thing, and we usually say that struggle is part of a quest or part of a growth direction to go.
Yeah. And in regards to the active and passive protagonist, there's a really surprisingly well-written story in a Western video game that Hound Rabbit is playing right now for the first time. I played it when I was a kid, and watching that just brings up all the details, of course, now again. And that is Gothic 1, and originally from Germany. And you are the protagonist, so you do things actively. You drive the plot forward by going out and doing the things that nobody did for years or tried, because it's also stupidly dangerous. And then at one point where you got all the big quest items together with one faction who's trying to do the big ritual, blow up a mountain of magical ore in order to destroy the barrier that is imprisoning everyone in this prison colony, this accidental prison colony, and yeah, we got all the stuff now. Please go back to the old camp and ask the fire mages, because we need all the mages who set up the barrier to blow up this thing. And then you set out, think, okay, cool, we're getting this done. But suddenly you're just being randomly attacked by the members of the old camp. And you figure out, because one of the guys who's not on board with that tells you, the old mine collapsed that they get the magical ore from, and the ore barons therefore are losing their position of power here. So the fire mages were not on board with that and told the chief of the old camp that he shouldn't go to and invade the other camp. So he had them all executed. So now we don't have any mages anymore to blow up the ore. That's where you are now in a new position where basically all the plot you worked for is gone, was for nothing, and you're in a completely new situation that is shit differently. And you're stuck again in the colony because of this complete accident. And that's both of these things in one. I really like that now, thinking back about that. Here on the screen, Maggie now shows us Wolf Warrior 2 as an example of a Chinese film.
I guess.
Does any of you know what that movie is?
No.
It is the worst, most blatant Chinese military propaganda you can imagine. Rambo is peaceful, is a chill ride against that.
Oh.
This is just it's absolute crap. And all Westerners are of course super evil and only bring bad stuff. And the Chinese in I think World War II is in Africa. The Chinese are totally beloved by the locals, and it's just crap.
Well, the best part is she's not qualified to unpack the message of her friend who said something very basic. So it's fun. Just this woman is amazing. Like every time she opens her mouth, I'm like, what the? Anyway, we are 24 minutes in. That's amazing.
This is so yeah. But
we started.
Just Wolf Warrior 2 is not a hero's journey movie. It's just action hero who is already awesome, has his action quest.
Yeah, I think Maggie's forgetting that not every story is the hero's journey, especially in film. So I don't know where she's going, but okay.
On the bibliography below, but the basic idea remains. Story structure and the values within those stories vary from culture to culture. And while, yes, we are all human and have things in common, I think we have much more to gain from trying to understand what makes each story unique, rather than trying to
It's so like, oh well, the story structure can like differentiate by depending on the culture, but like we gotta take this very small example of Chinese movies that don't really appeal much to the Western hemisphere anyway, but like let's just get stuck on that, because like that's the only way I can disprove like Campbell is speaking anything.
Yeah, let's go watch some Bollywood films for the next 2 years so we can understand what their composition.
How those have the hero's journey in them, like
they do or might not. It's like, why would we do that, Maggie?
Like this all came because George Lucas claimed that like this should have like a universal appeal, and except for the Chinese market, it seems like everyone in the world knows about Star Wars. Like, also, like, isn't that China is like kind of scared of ghosts? I just can't imagine like a movie like Star Wars.
They have this undead problem.
Yeah, they have that. Like they can't have skeletons, they can't have blood to that extent. But
sounds like the early 30s with films coming out in Europe, and all the censors were the church, and they would they would cut out all the kissing scenes.
Like, come on, what is the At one point, like, what was the most appealing Western movie in China? Transformers.
Wow.
What kind of stories are there? Like,
a movie
I'm
without
not
without
shitting,
an
like,
actual plot.
Michael Bay. When the Michael Bay Transformers came out, like China was the biggest market for those movies, and eventually he was designing the movies for them, and then it just didn't appeal to them anymore.
Yeah.
Because they made less and less sense.
Yeah, he wasn't really trying.
Nobody could follow anymore because this.
Yeah.
What?
So she's saying that Campbell is trying to retroactively, which doesn't make sense, shove every story into one mold. He is not doing that. He's
not doing that. It's like the initial thing that like Maggie is starting her rant on is because of George Lucas made a claim, but she created this strawman around Campbell. Campbell never said any of this shit.
And she's in denial that other cultures don't, that other cultures also have the hero's journey. And you see it in Bollywood movies. What's an example? My Name is Khan is an example of that.
Aluda Mayaka. I don't know if you have seen that one.
The first Ong Bak. The others are weird.
Well, yeah, but
yeah, the first one.
He wrote multiple books on this subject over the years, like Myths to Live By.
Look at all these kung fu movies. They're basically a really clear structure of the hero's journey.
Kung Pao.
Drunken Master, where you have the guy. He's a bum.
The Jackie Chan movies.
Yeah, the Jackie Chan movie.
Yeah.
My favorite. He starts out. He's crap. Meets this master guy, the basically Yoda who teaches him, takes him in, who's also dressed as a mythological figure. That's the blue robe, and then masters that, and in the end beats the evil guy who bullied him or killed someone. I don't know. Despite being my favorite Jackie Chan movie, I think the last time I saw it was over 10 years ago.
Well, in regards to what Campbell's been doing, he wasn't forcing any of the books into a mold. He was making a catalog, an amalgam of all the books that he could find, and said, hey, in this act of this book, of this whatever writer from 200 years ago, this is what happens. And he gets the next book. This also happens very similarly to this book, only in the 4th chapter, and he just keeps going. That's all he's doing. He's not forcing them into a mold.
Yeah.
It's just like taking a snapshot and going, okay, I can't talk about every single book all at once, but these are what is collectively happening in all of them.
Oh, maybe Maggie is projecting her own way of doing things, where she comes up with how things work, and then forces this authoritatively in a top-down fashion onto everything, just like Marx did.
Yeah, she's lying about what the hero's journey or Hero with 1,000 Faces is. There's no mold. There's no like, oh, we gotta force the Iliad into chapter 5 of the hero's journey's path. It's like, no, that's not what he's doing at all. It's as if she never read it. Like, this is so silly. He's never saying all the stories ever follow this formula always. And give me an example of one of the books he's forcing into like his version of the hero's journey. I don't know what that means, but that's what she's saying. I'm kind of getting tired of this. She's making shit up about books
for 3 days now
that are you could read and look at that and read and go, this is what the book's about. No, he's forcing things. It's like, no, he's not.
Proactive, shove every story into one mold. Especially when we've decided in advance that every hero is a metaphor for
No.
That's you, Maggie. That's you being dumb.
No one even thought of that, let alone said that.
That's your straw man.
Can you imagine this deduction she came to? Oh, every book is the Bible. No, every book's the New Testament that must involve a godlike figure who saves everyone and comes back to life.
Look,
And blah,
Maggie,
blah, blah.
that happens when Mormons write fantasy stories.
This is so stupid. Maggie, are you so like you can't be that dumb?
Jesus and his brother Lucifer.
Oh God.
Super Jesus,
that's
bros.
literally the what like the Mormon belief is that they were brothers.
Oh God, I hope. Okay. In case, anyone still reading Wheel of Time, please put carrots in your ears. That is the plot of Wheel of Time.
Oh,
Ooh.
Jesus is in it.
The main character is basically Jesus.
Oh, so it's like part
and
7
his
of
antagonist
JoJo.
his antagonist is basically Lucifer, who for a time thinks he's evil god.
Yay.
Great. At one point, it just hits you like, wait a minute. All the elements are there.
All right, let's keep going.
God.
The Buddha figure is like that of the Christ. A young Iroquois boy, he was being brought.
Yeah, do you know when that story came up? This is sort of, people will scold me when I say that, but you can understand Buddhism as a reformation of Hinduism, and it happened at around the same time that Jesus is said to have left the grave. And then allegedly there was a guy in India who preached very similarly, went by a similar name, and allegedly there's a grave of that guy as well. But things aside, there's this just, maybe it's the same person.
Yeah, we're talking about a Native American tribe, I believe, that's probably thousands of years old. I mean, it's not unheard of that they'd have similar stories.
No. I was talking about India, not the North American natives.
Oh.
The other Indians.
Oh, I said the young Iroquois.
The real Indians.
Okay, well, she mentioned the Iroquois, so I was like, all right, the Iroquois are 1,000-year-old tribe, or at least 4,000-year-old tribe.
Oh, I missed that part.
I don't know when they were made official, but they've been like you can't just say, well, because of the Confederacy or whatever, they were formalized, but like way before. It's the same with the Egyptians, like how old the Egyptian freaking culture is. Who knows how old? So it's
and you look at the Osiris story that also contains a resurrection.
Yeah, there's so many virgin births in mythology, so it's kind of a common pattern. And I'm sure they
so many children put in baskets that are put onto rivers that then are adopted by someone else and then become awesome people.
Yeah, if you're gonna make a religious figure or a major component of a religion, they're gonna start with a virgin birth of some kind. So, yeah.
To be taught. Boy, was Jesus. The Pharaoh sits on the throne of Isis. As the child sits on the mother lap, you will see the Madonna as the throne with the little child Jesus as the world emperor on her lap. That is the same image.
Okay, that's it. I've had it. I'm cutting in.
Oh, you just hate Jesus. You can
because
also derive
she's
from that.
She's an ex-Christian. Of course, she hates that.
Yeah, guys. If you know the story of Isis, Isis was a virgin and gave birth to Horus. There's so many of these stories throughout ancient times.
Yeah. There is the hypothesis that the Jesus story is also just a modern reiteration of these older myths in order to get this new philosophy going to the people.
Well, it is like also a theory that like all the religions are just praying to the same god.
Yeah, or that just parts of previous mythologies are added to the new one in order to make it look more divine than it is. Because you exaggerate the events as you go through history, as you retell the story to the next generation, so that the kids listen, that they keep their attention and go, awesome.
All right.
I'm taking off
Nobody's
these
silencing
wings
you,
because
Maggie.
they're itchy.
You don't even know what cancellation feels like.
Would wings even be itchy?
Wings of redemption.
Yeah, let's watch her take these wings
It's
off.
because she's a demon.
So exciting.
One sec.
Great content, Maggie. Doing a good job there.
Can we skip?
Couldn't just rip them off.
Can we skip? Please skip.
Maggie, you'd be horrible. You'd be horrible.
This is like an
in a-
interlude. Like,
Oh my god!
How long is she doing this?
Fall in love with movies was, of course, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man.
what?
A kid who was awkward.
Wait, go back. I think we
receiving
missed.
power.
How did we
My
get from
heart-
Jesus to Spider-Man?
Okay. I have something to say. When I was young, one of the first stories that pulled my heart out of my chest and made me fall in love with movies was, of course, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. A kid who was awkward and bullied, receiving power that he'd never felt in real life, facing obstacles, and arising a spider person with a purpose. And Mary Jane was dope too. And dashboard abs. I really believed that when I came across difficult parts in my life, like being bullied, it was okay because it would all pay off in the end when I'm older. That it would make me a better person. I was
That's
Wait,
retarded,
wait.
Maggie.
I want to
That's
hear
really,
the.
really dumb.
Yes, I want to hear the diagnosis.
and I thought, well, yeah, this sucks.
Whoa.
But
What happened?
this
I missed that part. Let's rewind.
Yeah.
I really believed that when I came across difficult parts in my life, like being bullied, it was okay because it would all pay off in the end when I'm older. That it would make me a better person. I was diagnosed with depression when I was only 16, and I thought, well, yeah, this sucks, but this pain is gonna make me a more introspective person. In short, I believed in the hero's journey. I
Really?
No, you didn't, you bloody didn't.
How does that work?
You believed in sitting around like a damsel in distress and waiting for someone else to solve your problems.
How
If
do
it was the hero's journey, you'd not sit around and wait for your reward in the far, far, far future,
Okay.
where you have learned nothing in the meantime because you just sat around and waited. If it was a hero's journey that you went through, you would have stood up to your bullies.
Wait a second. So let's say before she was depressed, she read a book from Joseph Campbell, I'm assuming, at the age of 14 or 15, which is very hard to believe. Okay. Then somewhere along the lines, something happens to her. She gets sad.
No, she watched Spider-Man and therefore thought that,
I don't-
sitting out the bullies instead of fighting back against them
Being bullied.
makes her a better person. Like Maggie, that's how you get to be a worse person, a weaker person. That's how you get to be a doormat.
Pick anyone, losing a boyfriend, whatever caused you to be depressed at that age. Okay, fair. Then you go, wait a second, I'm really into books. I remember that book I read a few years ago. If I just grow out of this, I'm going to be a stronger person? And I'm going to be more introspective? Really? You're going to be more introspective
You don't get introspection from sitting around with your depression.
while being depressed.
You apparently, and Maggie, you apparently didn't reflect anything at all because you're still a raging narcissist.
Can you imagine being depressed?
If you were introspective, you would have lost your narcissism.
and going, I'm going to have a personality change when I feel something positive. Wouldn't that be more the opposite of introspection? Wouldn't that be going out of your shell and going, oh,
No,
wow.
she's just waiting for the world to get better.
This is-
for the epiphany to magically come upon her, the divine blessing. She's waiting for the divine blessing.
I don't mind that she's young and doesn't know what the hell she's talking about and that she's sharing that with us, but this is like, wow, this is really naive and dumb.
I wonder what medication they put her on.
And to point out that she somehow read the Hero with 1,000 Faces or knew about it in this haphazard way to think that if you just wait.
Did she say that? I thought she just said she watched Spider-Man.
Yeah, but you can't just watch Spider-Man and go, oh, what's that? Oh, and I read, some other person read the Hero with 1,000 Faces and explains the concept to her.
I don't understand how you can watch Spider-Man and come out with that conclusion.
Yeah, that's another thing. Like, where are we going with it? So I assume she read the book in some capacity
Maggie,
beforehand.
Maggie, you're either lying that you watched Spider-Man and took those conclusions from it, or you are literally incapable of logical thought. Because it is completely wrong to take those lessons from that movie or that hero.
Yeah, I tried.
You're an idiot.
I tried reading Aristotle when I was 16, and I didn't get very far. But it was
understandable.
It was one of those things where like, okay, I'm going to try, and then I for one day I was like, I couldn't do it. Try the next day, I couldn't do it. You keep going month after month, and you finally get somewhere. That is like reading Hero with 1,000 Faces. It's tough. It's really thick. You have to. There's all these references, and this is like the 90s. We don't have the internet. Well, the internet was just being born. I don't know how to find any of these references. I don't know what the hell he's talking about. I would barely grasp the concept. You would have to go to like English class and have your professor explain it to you in a very basic way and go, okay, yeah, there's a journey thing and there's struggles and you change and become a bigger person and you have to go back to your tribe and you help them out, like the Iliad and the Odyssey or something like that. Like there have to be some classic example. But then impart that into superhero comics? I don't know. That's a stretch. Especially the films. I'm trying to... Something's not adding up here. I don't know where she came up with this. The depression thing is also throwing me for a loop.
She lives in a fantasy world. She's
It's
delusional.
always the excuses, not taking responsibility for your actions. And now, if I was misogynistic in real life, I would be saying that this is a very women thing to do. But, Maggie is a very special case. She absolutely doesn't want to, do anything for herself. She just wants everything to just fall onto her lap.
She wants the world to change.
Blame everyone else instead. It's a lot easier to do.
That's why I said in the beginning, her conclusion was to play damsel in distress instead of taking up agency. And playing damsel in distress is not the hero's journey.
Well, I find it funny that she thought she'd become more introspective, and you look at her now, she's extremely the opposite. So
she never introspected. I don't think she knows how that works.
I mean, it is possible in writing.
Does she have something to introspect upon? Is there something in there?
At that age, who knows? But I mean, when you're talking about growing out of high school and maturing, a lot of different things could happen. I don't think you mature into introspection, though. I've never seen that. It's possible. Like someone who's a jock goes, oh yeah, I should stop womanizing and stop doing crazy things and drinking and actually study and learn and be mature. Like that, I've had one example of that, but that's a very extreme case where a guy actually studied martial arts. He went, oh wow, a discipline. I should do this with my life and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
It's very rare. I don't think Maggie has that kind of fortitude at that age. If you're being,
I think if you tried actual meditation, her head would just explode.
Well, that would be interesting. But if she tried any form of discipline when you're depressed, which you probably should, meditation would certainly be part of that. So athleticism, meditation, study, stoicism. I mean, anything would be beneficial. So I do feel it's a sad story about her being depressed, but these pieces aren't adding up to me. Watching a film, it's like, okay, whatever, I guess.
And not taking the right lessons
gay.
from it.
I watched Superman, then I believe in the hero's journey. Like, okay, I guess.
Because it has hero in the title.
I leave home. I did change my entire worldview, but that
You became a communist.
did not help at all.
Really?
And my transformation never looked like this.
Okay, guys, I'm sure you might have had some
Yeah,
hardships. in
Maggie,
your
that's
life.
because you fell into a cult. You fell into the communist cult. You are still in the abyss.
Yeah, for people who are depressed or go through harsh times like a death in the family when you're young, that will change you for sure.
Maybe she's still in the Temptations.
But no one is saying that life is equated to the hero with 1,000 faces. Like that's not.
Yeah.
That's silly.
What Whisp was saying, temptation. That's exactly like what Maggie did. She fell into the temptation of the big gay.
And the
feminism.
And the communist cult. She hasn't even reached the abyss yet.
Like the worst parts of it is just like all these like sensational like pleasures. Because like that's kind of like the takeaway that I can get from Maggie's content. is that like whenever it's about like even like these smaller minority groups, it's always like these token minority characters or like these very niche sexual groups, and it's not because like they want to exist, but it's because like, oh well, it's going against the norm. But why do you hate yourself so much?
Yeah, I don't know why she's applying this literary concept to life. It's just a weird, dumb thing to do.
Because in retrospect, you can see that in some life stories. They're usually not the nicest ones. But if we go by this, Maggie can't see the hero's journey in her life as having happened because it hasn't concluded, because she's barely in the... She's basically still in the first third of it. That's why she can't comprehend something that she's never experienced.
Yeah, but this is like taking a concept from Jung.
She thinks it.
And going, well, I can't manifest my reality like Jung said, so he's a bunch of bullshit. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, where are you going?
I can't do a bench press anymore, so like...
Smart, this is what I'm talking about when I say that narcissists, especially psychopaths, don't understand empathy, don't understand emotional bonds, because they haven't even developed the capacity for that yet. So they mistake other things that they feel for that. And so Maggie mistakes something else in her life for allegedly this thing that she has not gone through.
I could talk about various types of psychological theories that would probably be more accurate to what she's trying to do here. This is dumb. Like, I'm just like, are you serious, right? Like, she's serious right now, or is she making a joke? I'm hoping it's a joke, because
no. I think she's talking honest here.
Any literary teacher or prof that would do this would look at you and like, what are you talking? Why would you apply this to life? What are you doing? This is fiction. This is a theory of fiction that matches known patterns throughout history. That's all. It's not some grand revelation about your own life when you were 4 and you stubbed your toe or something. Yeah, okay. I'm just dumbfounded. I'm like, what the heck is going on?
And it wasn't even until my adulthood that my life started to take the route of the heroine's journey.
My goodness.
Oh,
in
dear.
which someone completes the hero's journey, realizes that the prize at the end is hollow and laden with caveats.
The prize at the end is your femininity. You leave your femininity behind and you go into the world of men, and then you realize that this is not for you. You're a woman, and then you achieve your femininity for the mother or whatever you want to consider yourself at that point, and you embrace it. Unless I'm reading it wrong. I could be wrong, guys. It's been a few years since we covered Wit and Folly and we saw that weird diagram. But I'm quite sure it's the embracing of the feminine. Anyway.
So they set out again to rediscover what actually makes them fulfilled and happy.
Yes.
Oh, the heroine's journey? What's that? Oh, just one of the many alternatives to the hero's journey.
We talked about that.
This is, yeah, we covered this quite a lot. So I don't know what alternatives she's referring to, but they're all derivatives of the hero's journey anyway. Or fabrications thereof.
Or integrals.
Happens to be written by that very woman from the first video, Maureen Murdoch, the student who told Joseph Campbell, "I want to be the hero."
Yeah, and she wrote a half-baked idea. Like, it wasn't a horror.
It's Riri Williams.
No. But if you actually guys read the Wikipedia page on her and then you go in to read her book, it's not that good. You see where she's coming from, but 80% of the ideas aren't hers. And you're like, okay, you want to just put a female as, like, you literally want to gender the protagonist for some reason and focus on the feminine, which is then feminine content. Then you're no longer talking about a myth, you're talking about a genre. You're talking
Hero is a male word, therefore it excludes me.
Well, kind of. You could apply this to male as well. But
Of course.
it's just like you would be very specific to a content, which then means you're very specific to setting and then time frame and then culture. And it's like, okay, then you're talking about a turn of the century story or suffrage story or whatever. And it's like, okay, yeah, we get it. You want to focus on the feminine, but that's it. It's the same thing. Women have to deal with the world of man, and then they embrace their femininity at the end. That's it. That's pretty much all there is.
Which frustrated him. Glad he was retiring. It might.
It frustrated him because the woman asking all these questions were dumb. They did not understand what he was saying. And his response was kind of, he sort of said that women were the prize of the hero's journey. They were never actually the hero. They could be the hero, but in the stories that he read, women were the temptresses. They were the mother figures. They were the goddesses. They were all these very specific roles. So he's
all the positives and all the negatives.
Yeah, there's all kinds of manifestations of the feminine in stories throughout time. It happens to be most of these storytellers were men anyway. So they would write male figures as the people who would fall over their own shoelaces or slay the dragon, whatever the stage in the story was. It is nothing to do with being indicative of masculinity. It's very generic. That's why it's a myth. It's like a collection of anyway.
Hunger Games actually follows this heroine's journey.
No, it doesn't. Anyway.
Wait, the
first
book
film
or
is-
the movie?
I'm assuming the movies because she's a movie person.
The movie, she can't read.
Oh, right, I
books.
forgot. It's not the books.
Yeah.
It's always the movies.
It's always
Wait, Katniss embraces her femininity and becomes the loving mother of 3 or something.
Is she? Does
And
she?
becomes the very first female character.
You're joking, right?
We have concrete stories.
Do you remember that interview? You don't remember that?
No.
I've never seen that movie.
No
She
way.
claimed to be like the first female main
Really?
character.
Let me Google that.
What?
Has she seen anything past her movie career? Or?
How can you not have seen Aliens?
Yeah, it's a very niche movie, you know.
Uh-huh.
I want to see that interview, but I don't know.
It was all over the place like several months ago, but I'm sure somebody will link it in the memes.
Please.
Oh God. Anyway.
The hero's journey, only to find herself a part of that same oppressive apparatus and must find another way.
What the fuck is with her eyes?
Another of my favorite
She's crazy.
alternatives
Is she
Ursula
on
Le Guin's
drugs?
beautifully
No,
written
she's just
essay,
crazy.
Carrier Bag Theory, in which stories are crafted like the actual first tools of humans. A sack to carry things around. I'll include an entire list of books,
And you can see
articles,
Thomas
and other
Clearer
story structures below.
above
and
all
guess
and
what?
or below.
They were so easy to find. If you
It's-
love
she's
literary
mental.
criticism so much, how have you never Googled alternatives?
Wait. You're saying Ursula K. Le Guin is easy to find? Yeah, no shit. She's extremely famous in science fiction. What's your point? There's lots of famous women in science fiction. What is your point, honey? There's lots of women in general. What is this response? You quote a good author who's feminine. Yeah, Agatha Christie. She's a good author who's feminine. Yeah, and what's your point? This is so stupid. Lots of people in writing criticize writers and themselves and critics. This happens every day.
Criticisms of the work or read works by women about the hero's journey. Because Campbell sure had a lot to say about them. Aren't you curious? I purposefully
No.
started with Campbell's misogyny.
Oh, he's misogynist.
Misogyny?
When
You
was-
come up with this misandrist this whole time.
When was he misogynistic? He's
Well, he's
teaching
a
women.
man. He's a white man. Of course he's a misogynist.
He's at a women's university.
By definition.
If he was misogynistic, he would have been called out like the first day.
But the university is run by the patriarchy.
This is like an Overton window effect because like Campbell in no way could be considered a misogynist at the time when he was alive, but by the time that we are in, he is pretty much a misogynist, because like for these people, if you don't accept like feminine people authors entirely, and you're not praising them daily, that means that like you're not good enough.
Okay, so
that's kind of it. Yeah.
I'm trying to remember the bingo card. We got fascism. We got what else was he? Was he sexist? No, he's misogynistic. So there's sexism right there. Was he racist? Did she call him a racist yet? I don't.
Wait,
remember.
we still have bingo cards?
Well, just take.
We always have them.
Take anything that she says. Like she referred to politics already. So, economics, capitalism, right? Socialism. Did she even mention socialism? I don't recall. It's just like every single thing is coming out in her videos. Every time. She's got to bring this up. With no examples of Campbell being misogynistic. This is... Anyway.
She'll surely bring us lines now.
I purposely started with Campbell's misogyny. I was like, really? I thought you were talking about fascism. When did that happen? Did we miss something? Anyway. 29 minutes. We're going to stop at 30 because this is wow. My brain is just needs help.
I mean, we're near the end of the video. We can finish.
Just go to the last 2 minutes, which is gonna be the most insane.
Yeah, we gotta have.
We'll do a part 4.
Yeah, this is too much for us.
Fuck no.
Mark's like,
so every day you are super exhausted after a few of these horrible minutes.
Oh, I'm not exhausted. I just want to do something else with my life.
And the next day is, we
Royal.
still haven't finished the Maggie video. Are you up for it?
I'd rather grind to a dungeon for hours than this shit. No, like Maggie ran out of arguments to say. It's just the feminine journey is just, well, she never had anything to begin with. Yes, the heroine's journey is like something that has been discussed like on these streams for too many times. Already. I doubt that Maggie can add anything to that.
All right. 1 more minute.
Show us the misogynoir.
Okay.
Because search for the word woman in one of his books, and wow.
The problem is that in this woman's movement, they started out in a perfectly legitimate way. A woman doing the same job as a man ought to get equivalent pay. That's the way it started. But now it comes that women are losing the appreciation for their own domestic life, their own domestic potentialities, to bring up children and so forth. They are turning it all over to the state and the schools.
Oh my god, can this man be any more based?
Why they didn't read the whole quote?
That was accurate.
That is the literal goal of socialism and feminism.
That's what was happening.
That's what's happening today. That's why we are in a crisis right now.
That's why
can we listen to like what Maggie has to say about it?
All right.
No.
And yes.
Yeah, go on.
Cartoonish 1950s misogyny, just right there.
Exactly. Okay, now you can go for your red whistle.
That's your misogyny is that you're falling for the feminist lie, Maggie.
Misogyny is when you have a mother that takes care of her children, doesn't have to prioritize work environment instead to sacrifice the family.
That one income is enough to sustain the entire family.
Oh my god, one income is enough to buy yourself your own house. Wow. Imagine that.
No,
and a car.
2 incomes. No, but this is
hilarious.
Or food.
And you don't need to pay for a daycare because at least one parent, usually the mother, actually has time to take care of the children.
Yeah, so here's a professor, very smart guy, working in a women's university, being sensitive to the women's stories and their plights and what's going on in their lives. Obviously, he talks to all his students if they want to. And he's aware of what they want. They want to vote. They want to be parts of society more. They want equal pay and all this stuff. And he's like, wow, this is great. And he's admiring women for doing these things. And then he's going, whoa, whoa, whoa. Now you're just throwing away all of these responsibilities that you traditionally have, and you're giving them to the state. You're giving all your authority over your children to orphanages and suffrages and all these other groups.
Kindergartens.
You can't do it.
That costs money.
And that's
that you now have to earn as well.
And this is a good, and she's calling this misogyny because he's observing these things. He's not saying they're, this is a horrible thing. This is what was happening in reality, Maggie. He's the bad guy?
It still is. It's still going on. And Maggie is one of these dumb women who don't understand that having children fulfills.
And this was
she will never experience that.
And this is something she said she started off
Maybe
with this in her
better.
video. Now she's just bringing it up now. She doesn't have no concept of time. This is again. I'm just like, what are we doing, Maggie?
Now, it's just amazing. Like Maggie, every time like Maggie is like saying shit about people, like leave it to Maggie to make the Nazis heroic.
Yeah, you know I always fall back on the insanity of the ending of Mass Effect 3, that every line by the Star Child drove me insane. Like everything he said was bonkers. Like it was just like, that's not what happened. You're lying. Like I'm looking at her. I'm seeing this kid, and he's saying nonsense or lying to me. I'm like, Maggie, no, that's not what happened. That's not what he said. It was just on the screen a few seconds ago.
And that's why indoctrination theory is correct.
Yeah. This is
brainwashing. It's brainwashing theory, and Maggie is brainwashed and tries to brainwash us.
So Campbell hates women because he's realizing they gave away their responsibilities to the state. Okay, fair enough. Let's go with that. Whatever that means. 30 seconds. Then it's whiskey time.
I mean, listen to this.
I think it's a shame what's happening with the co-ed movement. This differentiation, which is so important to human life. The difference between a male and a female is being wiped out.
Oh my God, this guy's a prophet.
Wow.
This guy's a Look at this guy.
I need his other books now. I want all his correspondence, all his writings.
What year was this? The 40s? Did he say this?
Like collected works of
every single one of these quotes, you can hear the Giga Chat team playing.
Whoa! All differentiations are being wiped out. Yes, it's communism. That's why Maggie hates him, because he calls out communism for what it wants to do, what its stated goals are.
This is okay. Let's just keep going. We're almost done.
Every line.
Differentiations are being wiped out. You're almost not allowed to even have a club now. Anything like a differentiation is called elitism, and it's not enjoyed.
The man literally, Ben Shapiro meltdowning about men and women just working.
Ben Shapiro?
Let's rewind that. I gotta rewind it. That was amazing.
You're talking shit. Men and women have both worked all throughout history. That's happened all throughout history.
Maggie said that like this man is like Ben Shapiro, but like was it like he's supposed to be an anti-Semite? What the fuck is going on anymore? Oh my God, is Ben Shapiro a Nazi?
Let's try this.
Maggie, Maggie. Men and women have worked on the fields. They have worked in the stables. They have worked in the coal mines. You're delusional. You don't know anything about anything.
WAP meltdowning.
What's a Ben Shapiro WAP? Does anyone know what she's talking about?
I don't know. It's when he does this laser eye thing.
Let me
Ben Shapiro WAP. Did she just? I hope she did not just use what I think she used for the term there. Jesus Christ, Maggie, your mask there, it's quite on the floor.
If someone knows what that means, please tell us, because I don't.
It's a derogatory towards New Yorkers, I believe. The WAP one.
In case don't get me wrong. Campbell didn't refer to that in the past, men and women sharing the same jobs, because that's how you have to get through life. You have to get food. But what he's talking about is the communist making everyone the same and putting everyone on, forcing everyone onto the same outcome, and that makes everyone miserable.
Okay.
It's a bigger talk.
So I think what this could be, I could be wrong, is Ben Shapiro once reacted to Cardi B's song called WAP.
Oh, that thing. My mistake.
I never heard of this clip, so I don't know what it went, but apparently he embarrassed himself. I have no idea. Anyway, I'm assuming that's what, because I don't know all these terms, so I'm assuming that's what she's talking about.
Come on, we got just 7 minutes left. Let's speed the video up. Oh.
No, I think we gotta breathe. That was insane. We got a super chat. I gotta read that.
The same, yeah. Just to get us through. The part that Joseph Campbell complains about is in the domestic sector, where now everybody does everything. And we're at the point where, well, the feminists complain if the men don't breastfeed the kids.
Oh.
So every distinction is eroded.
All right. Caporal, she hates Campbell because he says deal with it. In one way.
In a way.
Yeah. I don't know. She's reading way too much into this. Obviously, she's wrong, but this is silly. This is like high school Valley Girl responding to something she doesn't like in any way she knows.
Yeah, it's what I'm trying to say. She never grew past that stage of consciousness. She's stuck in that age mentally.
All right, so we went through 10 minutes. That was an hour and a bit. Yeah, I gotta take a break. This is nuts. I might even do a video just on this response because it's been so crazy. We've been pausing every time she opens her mouth. It is like listening to a Looney Tune. And I don't know if this is like the common perception of people in the West, in California or wherever she lives, or this is just happens to be a thing that humanity is going to grow out of. Because I cannot imagine talking to someone like this in a intellectual capacity. It would just be complete nonsense. Anyway, thank you guys for not giving us an anime video to cover today. We got to do a Maggie video.
Memphis had one, but then it turned out we had already covered it.
I'm sure there's other videos that were referenced or suggested in the anime discussion.
Matthias failed to suggest good ones, so
okay, fair enough.
I finally
you can blame Matthias.
We could talk about that next time.
Blame Matthias. Hashtag blame Matthias.
There you go. Well, we're almost done. The next stream will be probably around an hour anyway. But yeah, wow, that was weird.
Let us finish this madness off. It is entertaining.
It is strangely entertaining, but it's also it makes you want to go write an essay on how bizarre this is.
Yes,
the Maggie quadrilogy.
Like, can you imagine being a sociology student and looking at YouTube and going, "Okay, there's some crazy people on there. Let's do a thesis or let's do a paper on the crazies," and encountering BreadTube and encountering all these other weirdos, and then you come across her. And you're like, oh, this is something else. This is not what I was expecting. This is like a bit of everything. A film buff plus social influencer plus movie person, video commercial girl who interprets history wrong through the lens of a retard, essentially.
With bad makeup.
Well, I mean, she looks okay there, I guess.
You remember.
I've seen her worse.
Or have you repressed the memory?
I've seen her worse many times. This is not so bad, okay?
Yeah, this is
her Fight Club video is the absolute worst. If you want to suffer, then watch that one. It's 57 minutes or something like that.
Anyway, thank you guys. We're gonna get
3 memes.
Thank you. Oh no, please.
3 memes.
Okay.
Shouldn't we do this tomorrow instead?
Well, they're gonna have even more memes tomorrow too. So.
That's not a lot.
Oh no.
But Master Wolf found the clip with Wash, and it is Jesse Lee Peterson. I knew it. I fucking knew it.
Guys, you gotta watch that. Go to the memes section, get that clip, watch it. It is absolutely bonkers.
Amazing.
I mean, Vosh is bonkers, but that one just like he purposely did that. He's a clown. Anyway, Cyberfrog. This is Super Inframan, created by the Shaw brothers. That mixes Ultraman and Kamen Rider. I know this is off topic, but this is more interesting than hearing Maggie making BS up. I agree. It's very small, but the poster is amazing. Zoom in on there. I can't really see much, but yeah. Kamen Rider? Wow.
Kamen Rider.
Is it common?
Kamen Rider.
See, I hate the long A sound. I always screwed that up when I was pronouncing manga for the first time. I kept saying manga. It's manga.
Yeah, but you have the long A at the end.
Well, it is the American pronunciation of manga.
Yeah, I know. LitDev does it all the time. It drives me crazy. Anyway,
yeah.
So long as there are Bart Simpsons in the world, humanity will be kept on edge and prevent the nihilism point of human society. Really? All right.
Jesus Christ.
Okay, yeah, that's not cool. Maggie is an alien far removed from the intelligence races of aliens. All right. I mean,
dear God.
Joseph Campbell in response to Maggie. Why are you booing me? I'm right. WAP stands for Where Are Pictures of Spider-Man? Hey. Campbell has a phone call. Based, I can't read that upside down. What does that say?
Department.
Okay. Cool. That was easy. Thanks, guys. Go watch that video in the stream memes. It's really amazing. Don't watch the full interview, just the video. That's too much to bear. Vosh is not worth it.
Yeah. It just makes you have bowel movements.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks, guys. We will see you soon, and we'll finish this off, and then we get on with our lives. And then we'll never see Maggie Mae for another year.
But part 4.
Well, yeah, after part 4.
The final chapter.
Yeah. We'll be great. We'll be done. You know what? I was going to do a series on crazies, and I wanted to end with Maggie. I think I'll start with Maggie. And then just...
No. Make it elliptical.
The craziest
The
journey.
ending is the beginning.
Everything comes back to Maggie.
The journey to madness.
She's the worst and the best of the worst. She's amazing. It's incredible.
The best of the worst. I think that's copyrighted by now.
Oh,
Is
maybe.
she the singularity?
She will reinvent herself to say whatever the heck she wants. Yeah, I'm sure. Anyway, have a great night. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Until next time.